Welcome back to Tottenham on Tour's world famous Christmas Advent calendar. It is day number 16, 16, and we're keeping this one a bit light-hearted, a bit more relaxed. We've got Mr. Daigle, of course, joining us, and we've got the archetypal avatar of destruction in the words of his name. We've got the Resonator. Mr. Resonator, how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm all right. Not bad. It's very bright and sunny outside. It's a balmy 27 degrees, and I'm wearing my Christmas hat, as you can see.
Yes, I can see that. It's the truth. And Mr. Daigle, Aki, what's been happening, buddy?
Nothing much, mate. Nothing much. The days are getting closer. The days are getting colder here in Toronto, and we promised some days would be quite comical, and comical would be the exact word for this day of days.
We're going to be laughing a lot today.
Yes.
And speaking of laughing, it's time for the Christmas cracker jokes. We'll start with our guest this evening, Mr. Resonator. What is your Christmas cracker joke?
So this is a very me joke for those of you who've seen me before. It's a very REZ joke. Okay, you ready, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. What did the mince pie say to the reindeer?
What did the mince pie say to the reindeer?
I don't know.
Not a clue.
You don't know?
No.
Nothing. It's a mince pie. Okay? It's a construction of pastry and dried fruit. With what precisely could it use to vocalize anything? Yeah? And as for that, the reindeer doesn't have the brain to grasp complex concepts that could be expressed in language. Okay?
Yep, it's definitely a REZ joke. 100%. He said it before, it's a REZ joke, and I think I'm going to win it today. I think I'm going to win this one. Why is Parliament like ancient Bethlehem?
Oh, God, I'm in trouble.
Because it takes a miracle to find 3 wise men there.
Oh, dear.
I love that one. I'm proud of that one.
And I'm going
about the Canadian Parliament, right?
Yeah.
World.
Oh.
Yeah. Of course, he's talking about Canadian Parliament because he's in Canada. So why wouldn't he? Yeah, and I'm gonna bring the Christmas cracker jokes back to where they should be. Why is Santa so good at karate?
I don't know.
Go on, I give up.
Because he has a black belt.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, let us know in the comments down below who has the best Christmas cracker joke. Is it the more political joke? Is it Rez with his really Rezzy joke? Or is it me being a bit simple? But we've promised you today a laughing day of utter jokeisms. Day number 16. Let's
start. So well, most of these players are very, very recent because obviously squad numbers was only been a thing in recent history or in modern history. So we're starting very.
This is why you've only got one guest today.
Yeah,
isn't it?
This one is this is going to be the quickest one we do today. But we're starting with once again the only man to win a trophy, the Norwegian wonder kid, and I'll talk about that. Stefan Everson, Ben.
The Norwegian wonder kid.
He wasn't actually that awful.
Haaland-esque.
No, he wasn't.
He was not that bad for the times. Again, he's the only person on this list that's won a trophy, and anyone that's won a trophy at Tottenham, we need to give them some layer of respect. But it was an era of Tottenham which we don't remember fondly. The George Graham years, the early 2000 years, it wasn't a good look. The only thing you could say that was really positive about that era was the kits, and the kits were all amazing. That kit that you just showed him wearing, the Adidas kit.
Yeah.
I
They were
still
all big parachute ones that look like the players got lost in them.
no, but it looked amazing with the Holston logo. That like I dream of having a kit like that again, a proper old school iconic kit. And if anyone from Nike is listening to this advent calendar, which they're not because we've already slated ourselves by saying day number 16, please design a proper good football kit for Tottenham, because as much as we don't want to purchase kits because we don't want to give money to a certain person, we want some cool kits that we're going to look at and say, you know what, if I was going to forego my stance, I would buy that kit. But what do you remember of Stefan Everson, Mr. Rez?
Nothing. No. I remember the 1999 World Cup, League Cup, because I didn't watch that. I listened to it on the radio, weirdly, because we didn't have football sort of coverage in the house, and I was very young. I was only 21 at the time. That ages me. And so I listened to it on the radio. I think it was Radio 5 Live or Radio 4 or something like that. That was on BBC Channel or something at the time. And I remember going absolutely nuts when Alan Nielsen got that, what I saw later, the flying header. Because that was also that was the game, I believe, where Justin Edinburgh got sent off. And that sort of just rather unjustly because of Robbie Savage, and so there's always been a bit of a sort of a, it's not a hatred of Robbie Savage, it's sort of a dislike coupled with an element of in there, because it galvanized our lads and they went on and lifted the cup because of it. So yeah, obviously Justin Edinburgh very sadly missed. Rest in peace, Justin. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, Everson was okay. You know, I mean, you look at his goal tally. You know, 36 from 144 isn't bad, right? It's nothing special, but it isn't bad. And I guess he was probably one of the more competent players that we had at the time. Bear in mind, I mean, you know, again, Alan Nielsen wasn't bad, but you know, we had Alan Nielsen in midfield. I believe that was also the Stefan Freund era as well, potentially. You know, so we weren't really pulling up any trees when it came to sort of squad.
They were workmen.
Yeah, so you know, it was a period in which there was a small period, you know, sort of joyful event, but nothing much to write home about. A little bit like Stefan Everson, really. However, just for the viewing several, right? I'll say something and then see if you guys know why. Did you guys know that Stefan Everson's father was a bit of an odd man?
No, is this another Christmas cracker joke?
No, it isn't. It's genuinely true. He's a bit of an odd man. And, you know, kudos to anyone who can, without looking it up, I'm watching you. You know who you are. The ones in the chat who are looking it up right now, right? Kudos to anyone who can tell me or tell us why Stefan Everson's dad was a bit of an odd man. There you go.
Well,
if you can't write in the chat, please don't write it in the chat, because just think it in your brain and pass it over the airwaves. But Mr. Daigle, what do you remember?
Listen, I do remember him very, very fondly, and I'm not joking. When we did sign this kid, he was hailed as going to be. You got to remember, this is before Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. This is before Haaland was even born.
Yeah,
seen as like a wonder kid in Europe, and a lot of teams wanted him. And he came in, and he set the place on fire to begin with. He scored a wonderful hat trick against Sunderland. Shows how old we're going back at Roker Park. For people that don't know or remember the name
of Light.
It was at Roker Park.
Like replaced it, but I don't think it's in the same site, is it?
No, it's not the same site. They moved sites completely. So he scored 4 or 5 in a game against Southampton. He was a very, very streaky striker. So when you see that goal tally, it was like he would go on a run of scoring 8 goals in 6 games, and then you wouldn't see him for ages. But
ages, yeah.
I loved Stefan. I loved Stefan. I wish he'd stayed longer. I wish he'd been a bit more
Prolific.
Thank you. Prolific. Thank you. Oh, Jesus Christ. But you know what? And people don't talk about it enough because obviously Nielsen's goal takes the credit. But it was his run and running at that defence that the goalkeeper parried it out straight to Adam Nielsen. So he has a huge part to play. He didn't just play in that game. He's a huge part of why we won it. And being Tottenham Hotspur fans, we have to, may not like all the players, but the players that have won trophies, we have to give them as much respect as possible. Because let's face it, they're very few and far between in the modern day era, especially the last 23 years. Why? Yeah. And to show a reason why I could think why, it's now 2003. Spurs need a left back. Let's go get a left back of some substance. Paul Konchesky, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Konchesky enters the building. As you know, you're all probably thinking of those greats that we've had. Ben, talk to me about Paul, about the legend that played 12 whole games for us, Paul Konchesky.
The only way we can say it is just play the track, the laughing policeman.
This is where we are.
He was utterly embarrassing. He was utterly embarrassing. On loan from Charlton back in the day. And I think he subsequently went to West Ham afterwards. He was awful. He was awful. We've had Lee Young Pio on this list as well. Going from Paul Konchesky to Lee Young Pio, who was a very decent defender, but didn't set the world alight. It was like going vertically upwards. That's how much the improvement was from Paul Konchesky to Lee Young Pio. He was absolutely awful, embarrassing, abject, useless. That every word you can use to put down a defender of the modern era of Tottenham Hotspur, it was Paul Konchesky. Hence why he only played 12 games. He's played less games than Vicario did, and Vicario's only been here like 2 months. That's unbelievable.
That wasn't the only reason he only played 12 games. A large part of that was because he kept getting injured as well.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. But he was awful. He was dreadful.
Yeah, no, I'm not denying that.
He was awful, like utterly embarrassing. And if Paul Konchesky is watching this, I don't think he is, Gareth, but he's probably already turned off. Yeah, he wasn't good. I feel sorry. Merry Christmas, Paul. You're just a bit.
Where's follow that, sir?
To be honest, the most interesting thing about Paul Konchesky that I can think of was that he was in Charlton's squad during probably their most successful period in recent times under Alan Kirbishley. And there's a lovely story. It's not really a story, to be honest. It's more just like an amusing thing where he was a left back, Konchesky, but he wasn't being selected there. That's why he asked for a transfer. That's why he was loaned to us, and yada yada yada. But at one point, there was one game in Charlton's history where their back four consisted of 4 players. I can't remember all their first names, so I'll do them in reverse order. So it's Fortune, Fish, Costa, and Young. Right, I think that might have been Luke Young.
It was Luke Young.
Right, so Luke Young was them, right? But then if you put them in the correct order, they read across as Young, Fish, Costa, Fortune. And that's the only thing I can think about to talk about Paul Konchesky. That's how much of an impact he has had on me in my Spurs supporting life.
So let me just, I can follow that with a little story of my own with him, but this is a personal story. Nothing, it's actually got nothing to do with him, the man, him, the player, or anything. But first of all, I will say, this is the state that this football club has been in when this man was brought in to improve our left back. Let that sink in. This was brought in, not as a squad. This was to bring in our left back. I actually used to like him at Charlton, but I never thought he was a Tottenham Hotspur player. His determination and team effort and team commitment was never in doubt. His application and talent certainly was. But people who know me well know I'm not the most wordiest of people and not great with the dictionary. But what we used to do after a few drinks and we decided to play stupid games is we'd play Scrabble, but only use football players' names. And Paul Konchesky on a triple word score is a very, very good score. I will tell you that. So it won me a game. It won me my only game, or one of my only games, of playing football player named Scrabble. So that's how good this was. And then moving on.
The one thing I'll say, the one thing I just very quickly looked him up because I was interested. He has, during his career, he did make 658 professional appearances. So they must have liked him at some places. I know you played for Fulham for a while, played for Leicester for a while, so you know he just wasn't. He wasn't anything special for Spurs, I think.
There we go. Which is what we're kind of.
And he's got 2 England. He had 2 England caps as well. Bear in mind.
Yeah, well, at least said about that.
More caps than Mark Noble.
So yeah,
yes, that's right.
That's a lovely, lovely one to bring in.
I'm sorry, Mr. Noble, but that was
why.
Why
are you sorry? Don't be sorry. He's a bellend.
Moving on to the next dude, and it just goes to show that there's kind of like an underlying thing we're trying to display within this calendar. How we've seen the icons, we've seen the great players and managers, we've seen their trophy haul. And when I say like 16 is a number, there's not been that many great players. We move on from the heights of Paul Konchesky.
I love how you got me in for this.
We're going to smash a glass ceiling here. We're going to bring you Reto Ziegler. Oh dear. Ben, what can you tell us about that class guy, Reto Ziegler?
What I can tell you is in the Panini sticker album that I had in 2003. I think it was 2003. When did Reto Ziegler play for?
2004. We signed him.
In 2004, when I was in year 4 at Clor Tikva, in the Panini sticker album, Reto Ziegler was the second rarest card in the entire book. And I had Reto Ziegler, but I also had a shit
like his impactful appearances for Spurs.
And I remember me, Ben, he was like Park Lane on McDonald's Monopoly.
Well, basically, it was that.
Or
it was like,
Monopoly.
The rarest cards in that Panini sticker album were Reto Ziegler and Michael Carrick, and I had both of them. But I remember getting my Reto Ziegler in the sticker because we used to always we'd get them at the sweet shop. I'd go to Brook Parade in Chigwell where there used to be one called Dylan's, or it was then called Martin's. I don't know what it's called now, some news agent chain. And we'd all come in on the day with our stickers and we'd open them all together at some point. And then I opened my packet of stickers and people would be like, "Oh my God, you got Reto Ziegler." Reto Ziegler. It was like, you're all supposed to be excited. It's Reto Ziegler.
Mate, this is you gotta love this day. You've got to love this day when we're talking about news agents.
Yeah, news
second
agents.
rarest card. Scrabble.
Brook Parade in Chigwell. It's the only parade in Chigwell. But what do you remember about Reto Ziegler, REZ?
What can you say about this paragon of the game? He is from Switzerland.
I think yes, he is.
He is one of the few players from Switzerland to play for Spurs. He wore an Alice band.
Yes, and he played with Grasshoppers.
And his hair was blonde. That's really, guys, that's really all I've got. That's all I got.
There you go. So listen, I could bring another Christmas cracker joke into this because whenever I talk about players from Switzerland, it reminds me of a joke I heard, which is said, I was talking to my mate the other day, and he said to me, I'm thinking of moving to Switzerland. Do you know anything about it? And I said, not a lot, but I know that the flag is a big plus.
The flag's a big plus.
That's basically. And do you know what? You've literally taken, Rez, my Alice band thing. That's basically. I was like,
the only story about Reto Ziegler is me having the second rarest card in the entire Panini sticker book.
Well, I think I've got to say, what I'm going to use this at the moment to say is, back in the day, well done scouting team, well done director of football that would have been fired because he wasn't allowed to get the players he wants in. Well done, chairman, on your brilliant knowledge on finding things cheaper. We've had three things from Switzerland: Christian Gross, Reto Ziegler, and Ramon Vega, who I won't have a bad word said against because he's massively Levy out, so he's a hero in my books. As
a player,
stop. There's a common theme that Swiss players don't seem to, or Swiss. If anyone from Switzerland is watching, nothing against you, lovely people. We just don't have the best of luck with Swiss footballers. But
I can't think of anyone.
Brian, there is one thing you do need to say. The flag is a big plus.
It is. It's a massive plus. It's huge. It's actually huge.
Who's that Liverpool player? Shaqiri. Is Shaqiri?
Shaqiri was good.
Yeah, but he didn't come to Spurs.
That's the only decent Swiss footballer I can think
of.
They've
had a few in their day. They've had a good few in their day, but just unfortunately, none of them come Tottenham's way.
But the thing that I like about Shaqiri, the thing I admire about Shaqiri is that he went on then to become a very successful Colombian singer.
Shaqiri.
So here we go. The jokes. I mean, we're down to our two players, and this player came with someone that was a superstar, and this player was meant to be the better one. We give you Kyle.
Yay!
Ben, let's talk about good old Kyle Norton.
It's all. I don't have any Panini sticker book stories for Kyle Norton. I'm sorry, boys. It was an interesting year, that one, because he mostly played left back because Carl Walker being Carl Walker obviously played right back because he was awesome. So he was relegated to his worst side. So you could say you feel sorry for Kyle Norton, never really getting a run of games in his better position. But the problem is, when you've got Carl Walker in the side and the subsequent player on this list found out that it's a bit of putting two and two together. But the two last players on this list found out when you were in the same squad as Carl Walker, a generational footballer, probably the best ever right back to play for England.
I think you're giving Carl Walker a lot more credit than he deserves, to be honest. Carl Walker wasn't that good.
He's a generational talent. That is probably the best.
He's nowhere even close to a generational talent. Okay, there are right backs playing now that are better than Carl Walker. I'm sure he was just fast. He's fast, and that's true.
Wait, you'll speak. Ben,
all right, go on.
I can't remember much about Kyle Norton. He did his best. He wasn't very good. Sheffield is a decent place to get a drink. It was an awful moment for me in my life, but I've got no bad word to say about Kyle Norton. He just wasn't very good.
He was all right. He was all right. He did a job at times. That's it. I mean, it is the average. I mean, that's not true. The next one I've got a lot to say about. But I think he was unfortunate in as much as at that time we needed Kyle Walker and we got Kyle Walker essentially. But yeah, I think he was the more developed of the two at the time that the transfer was made. You know, Kyle Walker was still, sort of developing. I mean, he's a bit older than than Walker. Norton is as well. So yeah, I think he probably thought that he would come here and he would at the very least get the chance to sort of make the right back berth his own. but really didn't get that opportunity because I think Kyle Walker sort of hit the ground running pretty much.
Well, Walker had
Yeah.
that. Norton stayed, I believe. Norton stayed in that first
For a
season,
while.
and Walker
Yeah.
went to Aston Villa, and
Correct.
he had basically the season of his life before, of
Yeah.
course, Carl Walker became Carl Walker and been very, very well recognised. But then he just like at the moment Carl Walker got into that team, we had Pochettino, and it was just like it was game over. It was game over.
Perfect thing for him.
It was
Yeah,
the
it was
perfect
a perfect.
match for Mauricio Pochettino and now Pep Guardiola as well. Very similar styles of football. He was never going to.
Norton was deployed on the wing a couple of times as well for us, wasn't he? Yeah,
he never had that pace. But what do you remember about Carl Norton?
You know what? If he was the better one, which everyone was saying at the time, I don't know how we didn't find a role for him or what went wrong. Obviously, Kyle Walker went leagues above him. That's clear to see. Like REZ, you said, he did play a majority on the left. He did. And you know what it is? At the time when Kyle Walker went on loan, I think you got to remember just how poor our team was. Our team overall was so poor. So he was one of the players that were calamity prone, and the odd thing would happen. And then obviously, who knows if Carl Norton went out and got a loan like Walker did, we may have been talking a different player. But the emergence in Kyle, the other Kyle,
yeah.
Say again.
Who was our right back that year? It wasn't Chorluka, was it? Because Chorluka had just gone.
Do you know what? I can't even remember now. It may Chimbonda. Would have been Chimbonda.
That's
I think it would have been.
No.
Oh, who knows? No, you're right. Who knows? But let's just say Kyle Walker then went on to Swansea.
Yeah,
and did very, very well for Swansea. It's just a shame. If you look at the players that we've signed, when we talk double act, you look at Simon Davies and Matthew Everington, two same players, different positions. You look at Dean Austin, Justin Edinburgh, right back, left back. You look at Andy Reid and Michael Dawson, midfielder and attacker. These two were the same position. And once Kyle Walker got the run that he did, he was never getting in. And you know what? Talking about with Kyle Walker never getting in, as you alluded to, we're going to end with a player who I love. I still love to this day. I think he's brilliant. Where is he? What am I doing? I've got into the wrong thing.
Yeah, you're doing my job, Aki.
I don't know why that's happening. We're talking about Kieran Trippier. I thought, what is Ben doing with the banners? And then I realised it was me. Ben, Kieran Trippier, brother.
This is a sad story because Kieran Trippier was an excellent player for Tottenham and he had all the opportunity to be a brilliant, brilliant player for many, many years. But Tottenham Hotspur happened. And he was playing with Kyle Walker. Again, Kyle Walker at that point he wasn't totally at his pomp before he went to Manchester City and he became the player he is now. And he is still now being. But it was a time where Trippier was not going to be needed in that Pochettino team because he never had the sheer pace and we never really had a target man because Harry Kane was never really a target man for Tottenham. He was a player, he received it on the ball, back of the net. That was Harry Kane in that era. But when Kyle Walker did eventually leave, Trippier had the chance to make that his position his own. And what happened? He got injured because of the terrible Tottenham Hotspur medical team. And instead of doing what most teams do, of having a backup right back that is the understudy to play while Kieran Trippier needed the surgery because he needed surgery to fix his issue, which he says from his book, he played with an injection in his leg every single game. So every single game he played injured and in pain. So actually, he was a complete and utter total warrior for this team, playing in that amount of pain. And I, at the time, hated Kieran Trippier. I hated him because he led, because I was much younger and much stupider, because none of us knew why he was making these decisions until his book was released. But he made 8 mistakes, which stopped us getting into the Champions League that year. Why did he make those decisions? Because he was injured, in pain. Hence why he was playing so badly. Because no one can play or anyone can do any job when they're in pain. Like if I get a repetitive strain injury when working as a barista, I can't make 500 coffees a day. It's not possible. And he was having to play high intensity Mauricio Pochettino football whilst injured with an injection in his leg. It was unacceptable the way he was treated. He left. He went to Atletico Madrid for a sizable fee. It was like £32 million, wasn't it? Something at the time.
I think it was near. I think around that.
Maybe slightly less than that. Maybe slightly less than that.
I think it may have been that in euros.
Maybe, but he had reinvented his career under Diego Simeone, and was a brilliant player, and is now doing well at Newcastle. Still is a very. If Kieran Trippier was still in this team, he would be brilliant. Of all those, he would have been a brilliant player for us in all those years. Under Mourinho and Conte, he'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the story of Kieran Trippier, a player that wasn't respected in his time, and after the fact, we're respecting him more. And I think Rez said he was going to talk.
Yeah, go on, Reginald.
Trippier. So let's talk about.
I mean, a lot of that is the fact that a lot of people say, oh well, you can't judge the way that this club runs now according to what it does before. Trippier was only here a few years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Less than a decade. Okay. Six years ago, something like that. Yeah. Right. He was at Spurs. And he left because he didn't want to stay, because rightly he viewed that his club was treating him like a piece of meat, essentially. Mm-hmm. And there were opportunities for us to bring someone in who could, do the job that he was there to do while he recovered and recuperated. But we didn't do that. And I don't know about you, but if I'm asked to do that, I'm not going to have much affection for the people that are making me do that. It doesn't matter whether or not it's through choice, but a player can see what's happening above him. So yeah, I've not got a bad word to say about Kieran Trippier. And I'm actually going to give a controversial opinion. I actually think that Trippier is better than Walker and always has been as a right back. Okay. I don't rate Kyle Walker as highly as a lot of other people. Explain to me. I mean, I would challenge someone to say to me what Kyle Walker has that is better than Trippier's apart from pace. That's what Kyle Walker is good at. He's good at running with the ball. That's it, right? Trippier is a far more intelligent player than Walker. And I'll give you this thing as well. When Walker makes a mistake, they are usually far worse than the mistakes that Trippier makes, right? Trippier is a better all-round footballer, in my view, than Walker. He's just
maybe technically, but that is football at the moment, and you could possibly say
no, it's not. It's not the only thing. It's not the only thing. Okay, there are ways in which you can use intelligence. Otherwise, Harry Kane, if it was all about pace, then Harry Kane wouldn't be as good as he is. He's good because he's smart.
What I'm saying is, Kyle Walker was absolutely perfect for the era of football he was in. Hence why he did so well under a very athletic Pochettino team, and is subsequently.
I think a lot of it. The other thing you got to bear in mind though is that Walker would do well because of those players around him as well. It wasn't just his own. This is the thing. This is one thing that is a greater football thing. We focus more on individual players in terms of saying they are great because they're great. It's like, it's not the only thing. You've got to look at the sort of the player in the round. Trippier fits more teams than Walker would, right? Walker, for instance, wouldn't fit very well in a Mourinho or a Conte team, but Trippier would. Like when a few seasons ago, a little while ago, when he was moving from Atletico and eventually ended up in Newcastle, I was on record, even on this channel as well, I think, saying if there's a right back that we could sign, I would sign Trippier. He wouldn't sign for us because of the history. But if I could have, if I had my druthers, as the Americans say, I would pick Trippier to be our right back before Porro comes along,
Porro is very
It's-
much like a Kieran Trippier, though.
Yeah, he's just got some pace as well. He's got some pace with him as well.
It's one of those things we'll be looking at. We could look at Pedro Porro because I think he's going to be excellent in the future.
I mean,
But
I've got a lot of respect for Trippier. I've got a lot of respect for him, a huge amount of respect for him. I don't like the fact of the club that he plays for now, but that's not his fault. He was there, you know, when that happened. Yeah, but as a footballer, I think that he's sadly overlooked. I think that the glamour of the blue lot up in Manchester has underrated him because people overrate the person that is almost his sort of copy in that position. Yeah, I rate Trippier higher than I do Kyle Walker, and I've got not a bad thing to say about him. I wish him the best of luck with everything that he does. And I just hope that he can actually forgive us as a club for what the hierarchy chose to do to him. But I know for a fact the fans never would. That's what I
think he's always had that. That's an interesting debate in the comments. Who do you prefer as a footballer, Kieran Trippier or Kyle Walker? Put it in the comments below. Who's right? What do you think? Let us know. But Mr. Daigle, what's your thoughts on Kieran Trippier?
I love him. I absolutely love him. When we bought him from Burnley, didn't know too much about him. Knew he got rejected by Man City. He'd gone there. Obviously, you wouldn't have expected Burnley with the kind of football Mauricio Pochettino played. Came in, obviously, a decent price. This is something that the club had scouted well and done right. Whoever power that be that got him in, I think it may have been Paul Mitchell, and we all know how good that guy was for the club. Once he came in, he's not the tallest, he's not the quickest, but my God, is he very, very good at what he does. He added, the thing that you had to love with that is obviously back then we had the back four. We had the back four, which we all knew was Walker, Jan, Toby, Danny. But we had two very, very good backups at that time. And one of Pochettino's main things of doing was rotating those fullbacks because they were so key to him. He just kept on improving and improving and improving. And at certain points, I'd agree with Rez and say he was better than Walker at some points at Spurs. Whereas Walker, listen, there was no one that could beat Kyle Walker for pace. But one thing you knew Kieran Trippier would do, his passing range for a right back. We talk about Porro now being exquisite. This guy had it, and obviously the dead balls. We saw in the World Cup what he did for England in Russia. That free kick was a thing of beauty. Came back, scored that wonder free kick against Fulham when everyone... I mean, Kieran Trippier came back a hero from that World Cup and started the season on fire. I remember... Obviously, the club and Kieran Trippier has openly said how he was forced out of that club and disgustingly the way it was handled and the way it was done. But like I said, I remember I was actually coming home to London from Toronto and I was at home. Sorry, I was at Pearson Airport and I was watching that Chelsea game where he scored that own goal. And I was fuming. And it came out later that he was playing injured all season. And you look at it, after Walker went and we had the Walker money, the right backs we brought in to assist Trippier were nowhere near. You know what I mean? You would say Walker, Trippier, either one playing, you're happy. Like, do you know what? Lockdown, good, happy.
Those were the two best right backs.
They were.
And then you had the pacey guy who was the better defender in certain situations, and you had the guy that was better going forward with his crossing ability and his passing range. Yep. You had the perfect.
It had it all. And then we went through the Emerson Royals. We went through we went through where every single right back got worse, and we spent more than 50 million trying to find the replace. I mean, Kieran Trippier was it, and then as you said, he went off to Atletico Madrid, and another player that leaves this club and wins the title. And has come back to Newcastle and has been absolutely incredible. Absolutely. His dead ball taking has improved. His passing has improved. would I have loved to have seen a Porro Trippier right back like Walker and Trippier? 100%. 100%. Kieran Trippier, I think people underestimate how good he is and how good he was for Spurs.
Just to put it into, just so you're aware, Kieran Trippier at the moment is the joint top assister in the league.
Yeah, this is the thing. He's
Kyle Walker isn't even in the top 10.
Yeah, but Kyle Walker's not known. They're like you said, these are different metrics, obviously, that they are used in. But Kieran Trippier, just a wonderful player. I'm so happy. Well, obviously, he's doing well at Newcastle, and Newcastle are doing well, and he's there. But you know what? And one thing I will say about him, and I never knew this about him, and it made me love him even more, is anyone that's watched that Newcastle United documentary, which is an absolute fantastic documentary, and you see how a club is run. Kieran Trippier talked about why he came back, because people were saying, "Oh, you've gone to Newcastle for the money. You've done it for this. You've done it for that." It's like, no, I've taken a pay cut. The reason I came home is my wife and children couldn't settle, and it was more important to me that I come back home where my wife is, because his wife was saying, "I might have to go home, and you might have to commute, or I'll come out on weekends or whatever." And he gave up playing in he's in Champions League now.
Not after.
So you look at he's playing Champions League.
He's a good egg. In his heart, Kieran Trippier is a very good egg.
He gave everything up.
He's a
titles to come home because of his wife and kids. And I think that's the perfect way to wrap it up with his with Kieran Trippier. Like we said, Ben, we said this was going to be a comedic one. It certainly was. Rez, where can people find you, buddy?
Street corners, hassling McDonald's, hassling Madonna, maybe. I don't know, screaming at the moon from time to time. You'll find me here and there and everywhere. But soon viewing several, you might find me more regularly.
Maybe. Listen, guys, thank you for watching again. Ben will do his plug and then see us out. But just want to say we're at day 16. Thank you for all the support and everyone watching it. We hope you've been having as much fun watching it as we have been doing it. And over to you, Ben, with the coffee company and our exit.
Yeah, coffee company, weekday streams, 8 to Broadway, Woodford Green. Great coffees, all that shabam. And yeah, you can find us there. Everyone knows where I'm at anyway. But from everyone here at Tottenham on tour, we wish you a wonderful Christmas season. Spoil yourself, drink merrily, spend time with your friends and family. Thank you all so much for watching today's edition. We will see you in the next one. Come on, you Spurs.
Righty, Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Talk.